these are the types of things that if I'm going into see a divorce lawyer, these are the things that I would want to know. Welcome back to the No Judgment podcast. I'm your host, Wil Halaz, and today we're going to be talking about questions you should be asking your divorce lawyer at your first consultation. This is one of those important times where you're kind of feeling out who you want in terms of your representation. And so, there's some important things that you're going to need to know from them. The seemingly obvious one is, what is the law? How does it apply to my case? And that can be a tricky one. A lot of times, attorneys won't want to get into a lot of detail because they don't know very much about your case yet. So they don't want to commit to, a specific result, which makes sense. But being able to articulate what the law is and then how it may apply to your situation is something that's important to know. So if you have any quirky or unusual facts in your case, that's something that you're going to want to bring up at that initial consultation. After that, though, we get into more of the sort of personalized questions in terms of the attorney. The facts of your case, that's going to be something that's personal to you, and that's going to be different from case to case. But as far as the attorney goes, there's a number of things that you're going to want to look at. First of all, you're going to want to look at what is their experience, okay? How long have they been practicing? How long is the attorney that's going to be working on the case been practicing? And if that's a different person than the one that you're initially meeting with, that happens a lot. I do a lot of our consultations here at Cordell Cordell, and I just couldn't take all of those cases on myself. It would be a disservice to my clients. So I'm going to be assigning those to different attorneys, and so that's an important thing for the potential client to know up front is whether or not I'm going to be the attorney and how much experience that attorney has. Also, who's going to be doing the work on the case? If the case is assigned to me, but I'm going to have an associate do 95% of the work, that's something that if I were interviewing the attorney would be important to me. And what is their familiarity with the area of law? Do they practice all areas of law, just a little bit of everything, or are they focused on family law? It's not to say that you can't be a good family law attorney if you don't just focus on the area of family law, but it's something that you would want to know about. How much familiarity do they have with this area of the law? Next, what's their style like? Are they a, really aggressive, in-your-face kind of attorney? Or are they more of a relaxed kind of, just putting forth the facts of your case to the judge in a concise and persuasive way, but maybe they're not the sort of pound the table type of attorney? And it's not to say any one style is better than the other. It's what works for the attorney, but you also want to know, does that work for you? Does that match up with your personality? Similarly in that, what is their style as far as communication with their clients? Do they communicate in writing? Do they communicate over the phone? Will they do text messages? How frequent are they going to be communicating with you? Those are the types of things that you want to know so am I going to be involved in this case, or is it just sort of a set it and forget it from the attorney's perspective? You may have your own expectations, but if the attorney's way of practicing and your expectations don't match up, then that may not be the best fit for you. Conversely, if you guys are on the same page, then you're probably going to be much more satisfied with your representation. That kind of leads to another topic, which would be, what is my role in the case, right? Am I a passive observer in this? And the attorney is expecting that they're just going to kind of run the show and everything is going to go through them? Or are they expecting you to participate, to gather documents, to get them information, to play a more active role in the case? If your attorney's expectations are that you are not going to be involved at all and you have a lot of information and you want to participate in the case, well, that might not match up so well for you. You may not be satisfied with that representation. So you want to know going into it, how involved am I going to be on this? And then lastly, and I'm sure for many of you, most importantly, the financial side of it. What are the retainer expectations? How much is the initial deposit? And how frequently are you expected to replenish that retainer? What is the attorney's hourly rate? That can vary significantly from attorney to attorney. And, sometimes that's going to be a deciding factor for you. Also, what are the expectations if you're going to go to trial? You may go into an initial consultation knowing that your case is going to be hotly contested and it's going to go to trial. If you aren't sure that, or if you aren't aware at the very beginning that, hey, if we go to trial, there's going to be a really big bump in that retainer come trial time, then that's something that maybe is going to come out of the blue and it's going to shock you. And the last thing that you want when you're involved in litigation is surprises, whether that be from an attorney's standpoint or from a litigant standpoint. So for me, these are kind of the biggest areas. Sort of within that last area also, what am I going to be billed for? I think that's a really important question to ask. What am I going to be billed for? Because a lot of times there's a question, if I text you, if I send you a text message, am I going to be billed for that? If I send you an email, am I going to be billed for that? Or am I just billed for court appearances and drafting pleadings and things like that? So knowing that going into the case, it allows you to be much more prepared for what's coming down the road. And again, like I said, the less surprises that you can have in a case, the more comfortable you're going to feel with the final outcome because you've been prepared. You can anticipate it, and you're not going to be shocked when you see that first billing statement come out or when a complicated issue comes up and the attorney wasn't aware of that at the beginning, and maybe they don't have that experience level to be able to handle that complex issue without having to do a lot of research and a lot of follow-up on that issue, kind of learning on your dime. So a number of questions, all good questions to ask, but these are the types of things that if I'm going into see a divorce lawyer, these are the things that I would want to know. If there's other things that you would want to know, put them down in our comments section. Let us know, and we can address those topics with you in some future podcasts. Remember, hit that like and subscribe button, and until next time, no judgment here.